It is the TTP Field Manual podcast. I am Joshy. With me, as always, is my boy, Jonny.
Oh, hi there.
Hey, how's it going, gorgeous?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
It sounds like I'm a little baked, but I swear we were just doing voices before we hit record. Hello, everybody. No, I'm good. I'm here to talk with you about Warhammer. How else should a morning go? Am I right?
I mean, it is something I think about every morning when I wake up.
Is it addiction?
No, I call it inspiration.
I call it hobbying. As some sort of like, don't worry, society, it's okay to spend all this time and money on this because it's a hobby.
Yeah, I don't wake up in the morning and check Instagram first to see what has been revealed.
Oh, I do that for the dopamine hit. It just so happens to show me Warhammer stuff.
They are constantly the first stories in my list.
Can we just talk about, decade ago, decade and a half maybe, I can't imagine like Warhammer would have so much going on. And in fact, it definitely did not. And now with all the various games and social media and extra stuff they do with like gaming and books, every frickin' day it's something. It's like world news, but within Warhammer.
I mean, it's part of having a social media presence, right? You got to make sure that you are constantly doing something and making sure people wake up and think about 40k first thing in the morning, right? And with how many systems they have available, there's always something to show.
Yeah, I think they do pretty well at actually saying, like, this is for Horus Heresy. That is different from the Warhammer 40,000 that you like. I think they do a good job of that. But the amount of times I see on Reddit, it's like, I just bought these Space Marines. Can I paint them as Dark Angels?
You do you, boo.
That's kind of it. Like, the amount of times I see threads and Instagrams and stuff like that, which is asking just such obvious things, makes me wonder if perhaps the company hasn't done enough to make it as accessible as they'd like it to be.
If you go back to previous editions, the color of your models literally determined what they could do in-game.
That is true.
It wasn't until 10th edition that they really opened up the you do you, boo.
And the concept of WYSIWYG.
Yeah. Although we don't play with WYSIWYG.
We do not play with WYSIWYG, which is a funny acronym for what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Usually that is, hey, like for today, this Space Marine with the sword, I'm running as Space Marine Judicia stat block because I 3D printed that. And it's not the same official model.
Careful, we don't throw that word around too loudly. We don't want Warhammer to find out that we're 3D printing models, alright?
I'm not. I just bought hundreds of dollars worth of Sisters of Battle.
I'm also not anymore, because my 3D printer exploded.
That was a hand-me-down from our other mate who does 3D printing, wasn't it?
Mate, that was a hand-me-down of a hand-me-down.
Oh dear. But it made you tanks.
It did, and then I came back and it failed so spectacularly that it fell apart.
Oh, like boom boom?
Like shook screws loose kind of bad.
What did you do?
I put a print on and then went over to a mate's place and I came home and it was bad.
Oh no. Johnny boy.
So she died.
How are you going to change up your list now whenever we do a Crusade game? You're like, I'm going to try something different.
It's simple. I just need to get myself a Magnus. I'm falling behind now. There's 2 Demon Primarchs in our games. I need one for myself.
You've heard of the concept of Hero Hammer, right?
Yes.
So, in Warhammer, a lot of the various systems have a lot of factions. You typically go for these factions based on like certain characters you might resonate with, whether it's aesthetically or storyline-wise, maybe even rules-wise. But especially in recent times, we're getting all these big, giant centerpiece models, big demon guy, big hero guy, big angel guy, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Our play group is just one by one bringing in these huge centerpiece models, and it's just like a big Primarch dick waving contest now, isn't it? Yeah, we've got potentially like six Primarchs, which are the primordial demigod-esque head of the original Space Marine legions of old, and now they're back as these big mythical play pieces. All the bad boys are coming back a lot quicker than the good boys. We've got Mortarion, got Angron, Magnus. Fulgrim isn't quite out yet, but he'll be here soon.
Will he? We would need a player for that.
We got Gilliman. We got the Lion. I kind of feel bad for like the other factions who just have like just a person, a new person on the block up against these mythical entities.
I mean, some of the lists have almost equivocal power units. Like, you've definitely got Necrons with Big Boy.
The Silent King.
You could talk about Orcs and the fact that they have Gazgul Sraka. Farseer, I kind of see on more of, like, the first captain level, like Abaddon and stuff like that. But that's about it, realistically, right?
We got, various Supreme Commanders. The Custodian have Trajan Valoris. The Sisters of Battle have Morven Val.
They feel more like first captain level, that's more like the Abaddon of the army as opposed to the big boy.
Yeah, if the Custodians were to be like, oh, by the way, Constantine Valdor's back, everyone would be like, crap.
But also, please, come on, do it. I'm all for it.
He exists. He's in the setting still, and I won't spoil the how and the why, but you read some of the books that I have, and you'll be like, hey, I know that guy. But we're going to talk about something a bit more specifically, hey?
We are.
This was something you suggested we talk more about today on account of us not being too prepared for anything else. What are we going to talk about?
We are going to talk about Crusade, but specifically our Crusade. We are about 5-6-ish weeks into our latest Crusade campaign.
What is Crusade?
It is 40k, but story. It is the narrative expansion to 40k, specifically 10th edition, and it follows an ongoing, growing force that you can build up alongside your friends / the players, and really allows you to upgrade units over time and gain XP. It's like a RPG Lite attached to your games of 40k. They release Crusade supplements once a year. We so far have 2 for this edition, being the Leviathan focused campaign and the Pariah Nexus, and we've just got Nakmund Gauntlet revealed and released to the public. Spoiler, we haven't talked about yet. That will be coming in the future. But our personal Crusade is a creation of your own as the basically dungeon master for this.
Sure is.
Which is a fusion of Dark Crusade's map alongside both of the previously released Crusade supplements, all mishmashed into one giant story, which I think's pretty cool.
Did you want me to talk about my thought process as I put it all together?
I think that would be a good place to start, and then we can go through what armies are being played, how the first chapter of this campaign has gone up until our points rise, and then maybe an overview of what might be coming in this current chapter.
Yeah. So, you mentioned these Crusade supplements, and most armies also have a little bit of something to reflect their personal identity when interacting with the Crusade system, a little bit of an add-on to their army rule that works just within Crusade. But the actual Crusade supplements are a little bare bones for my liking, Johnny. They have a lot of missions which are unique and flavorful and not always feeling particularly balanced because that's war.
Mhm.
you have a lot of these upgrade tables, war gear, perks, maybe secondary resources, secondary types of missions. That's all well and good. Gives you a bit more to think about. And then every, unit obviously upgrades themselves over time as well. But that's kind of it. And we played a Crusade last year. We followed the Leviathan mission pack, where a few of us use it to really learn the game.
We called it the tutorial season.
Yeah, season 0, season 1, whatever you want to call it. But we got our head into it, we understand it. And for this year, I wanted to do something a bit more in-depth. I wanted there to be a little more going on than, all right, this week, Jonny versus Joshy, play this mission. Like, I didn't really want to do that again.
Yeah, yep.
Most of us in our game group grew up playing the Warhammer 40k, early 2000s PC strategy game, Dawn of War.
What a beautiful time to be alive.
What a beautiful time to be alive. As the Dawn of War first game went through its various expansion cycle, they started to play around less with a linear campaign of missions and more of what was known as the meta map, where you would have a sort of strategic overlay of either a planet or a planetary system. You and the computers would take turns choosing tiles to attack, you would resolve these missions, and then the phase resets. The idea was to obviously expand your army across the whole battle zone, taking this region, taking that stronghold, taking this tactical resource. And that was fun because, you kind of were involved in this global or even solar level conflict. And I wanted to replicate that. And so I found, via Reddit, someone who had done a very high resolution render of the Dawn of War Dark Crusade Cronus metamap.
Yep.
And that was the tipping point. All of our players, we assigned to the actual starting locations that various factions did so in the video game. We would then choose each weekend that we play tiles to attack. And then we would sort of either going off of a bracket system or a random roll-off be assigned opponents. And then from there, the various opponents would then roll off. Whoever had the higher result, we would then set up one of the actual Crusade mission packs from either Pariah Nexus or the Tyrannic War to be the mission that's actually played. And whoever actually wins receives the perk assigned to that particular tile set. We then go to our little digital meta map and highlight the zone. This is, held by, I place this as a battle, I picked yellow. Josh won his match, this region is yellow to represent, it's under the Sisters' control. And every region is assigned one of the actual missions from the book. Several of the missions in the actual video game came with a specific strategy phase affecting perk, so I tweaked them for this actual 40k tabletop game.
Yep.
And we just play the actual competitive tactical mission decks for those. And that's sort of the first real phase, the first big meat of this sort of direction I've taken us in. And you've played more games of this than all of us, Jonny. How do you like it?
Well, I think that it's very well done. I think you've done a really good job putting everything together and having everything kind of work out. I do have one overarching issue with Crusade in general, but that's a me problem, not a game problem.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I want to play different armies all the time.
Yes.
In the interest of the fact that, yes, I have played the most games, and that can kind of lead to some snowballing because you can gain experience. I have been swapping between two forces to kind of keep myself on an even playing level, which honestly has been great because it means that I can play my main Crusade force and then occasionally break it up, which is a lot of fun because I do enjoy breaking it up and doing something a little differently. in my ADHD train wreck that is a brain, I am constantly jumping between army lists for like 3 or 4 different armies. For me, list building is a lot of fun and an interesting exercise and learning what's good and what can be used. But for the overarching like Crusade stuff, I think you've done a really good job. It's still 40k in a nutshell, but I mean, some of the little bonuses that you can get are pretty decent and have pretty good effects. I do think there is some tinkering we could do in some aspects, but that's something we can discuss in the future for sure.
Yeah, it's not an official product, it's just our fun game.
That's it, I've been having a blast.
Should I talk about more than the additional systems that I've sort of tacked on to this?
Yeah. Maybe touch on the ones that we're currently utilizing as opposed to the one that's still whip.
That's still whip. So, to get out of the way the issue first of, well, what if someone attacks a region? What if someone attacks a region, but then, like, you're not there to defend it? Well, I actually have 4 custom scenarios for resolving matchmaking, as it were, based on several parameters. Right now, we are in a lot of the what I call initial expansion phase, where people are just grabbing neutral territories with no ability to actually contest regions. But then I have other matchmaking parameters that I call territorial aggression, overwhelming force, and meat grinder, which is obviously to represent the raising of the actual conflict as people start to attack one another, maybe create some pseudo-alliances, etc. And we'll talk about that more as they actually come up, which they have not. Now, besides that, as I said, we got some perks in certain regions. This can include generating additional resources. It can do certain things such as better defensive capabilities if you were to be attacked. We obviously have our strongholds, which have an extra layer of defensive capability baked into their actual existence, so you're not going to just go pick on the new guy and take his territory. You actually have a bit of an uphill battle that's multi-game staged, so that you're not just going to be wiped off the board in one weekend. The thing that we are playing with is called Honor Guard. Yep. In the Dark Crusade video game, you would be able to take these various regions and you would get a Space Marine Lieutenant or an Eldar Exarch or a Chaos Sorcerer, something like that. And you'd be able to start your actual strategy game, missions with them running around with your boss. I love that idea. And so I've got an Honor Guard system. If you manage to secure a territory, you get a one-time buy-in to a particular Honor Guard unit. It's all relatively balanced to other factions. But let's say Chaos Space Marines takes the jungle. Alright, cool. Now you can spend a requisition point to have the Nemesis Claw walk around with you at the start of the game. And these Honor Guards don't actually count for Crusade. If you want to take them, and you actually have quite a leap on your opponent, they get additional perks to counteract you. If you are being attacked, you can deploy more Honor Guard without this penalty. And it's just sort of a little, inner circle, hero's court kind of vibe for your warlord as it grows. And without touching too much into it, my 2 work-in-progress systems is a replica of, again, the Dark Crusade War Gear system, where you do sort of in-game achievements such as conquests, defenses, kill lots of things. You get War Gear points. Your warlord gets a new bit of gear. That's still a work in progress, as is base building, which is a sort of an out-of-phase between games system that allows you to spend a separate resource to do things such as an armory, a medical facility, defensive lines, and overall just reinforce your position. With unique structures being available to all the specific factions, such as, let's say the Sisters of Battle. They get a Saint Shrine, for example.
Yep.
And that's kind of all of the various systems I've been whipping up for us. Does that get you excited?
It sure does. I do like customization, and I do like the ability to adjust over time. I think it's a lot of fun.
But with that out of the way, do we want to talk about the people that are actually playing in the Crusade? Do you want to talk about your actual Crusade force?
Sure.
Do you want to talk about the narrative I've set up? Where do you want us to go?
Well, let's start with what people are playing. Not necessarily like names or anything like that, but the forces that are at play.
Yeah, of course.
And then we can go into the narrative that you have set up for like why this is happening based on the people who are involved.
Take us away, Johnny. Who, army-wise, is in this game?
Well, we have currently 6 active players, of which I think I'm the only one running 2 forces.
For now.
For now. We have the Imperial forces in the Adeptus Sororitas being played by yourself. We have the Dark Angels, who have made an appearance for the Adeptus Astartes. We have, representing the Xenos factions, Orcs. And then things get a little icky from there.
You have Chaos.
Chaos reigns in 50% of the forces at play. We have World Eaters, a new Death Guard player who has just joined us, and me representing the forces of Undivided Chaos in Chaos Knights and Chaos Space Marines. It's been really fun to kind of see everyone getting involved, joining in, doing what they need to do, seeing how people are growing and building and how terrifying some of these armies are to fight on the table already.
I'm constantly anxious.
Yeah, every game I'm like, how do I deal with this issue that is in front of me? The answer is through great strategy and clenched cheeks.
Strategy? In my strategy game? You mean I can't just roll dice and win?
No, you cannot just roll dice and win.
Yeah.
It's been a blast. I honestly have no complaints regarding the actual playing of the game.
Yeah, and we're building like more terrain pieces and stuff so that our battlefields can be a little more varied.
Would you like to discuss what your 1,000 points of Adeptus Sororitas looks like, who's leading them, and a little bit of lore behind why they have come to this planet? And maybe a part of the narrative of what's going on this planet.
I could do the Star Wars spiel that I sent to our group chat a few weeks back.
Yep.
If you want.
I think that's a good place to start. Giving everyone at home an idea of the events that have perpetrated this war.
Cool. All right. So, the Second War for Cronus. A world scarred by the conflict known as the Dark Crusade is now once again plunged into brutal battle. The emergence of the Pariah Nexus has sent ripples of chaos and entropy across the segmentum, and Cronus, cursed since the Horus Heresy, is once more the epicenter of an all-consuming war. A strike force of the Dark Angels, under the orders of Chapter Master Azrael, arrives on the frozen cliffs of North Vendia and reinforces a desolate fortress once held by the Blood Ravens. What should have been a simple reinforcement mission to aid the beleaguered local PDF quickly devolved into something far more sinister. They arrived during the prelude of yet another chaos incursion. Before the Dark Angels' arrival, the Exiles of Iron Warband had already laid claim to Cronus, reconstructing cursed warp portals from the blasted graves of the Deimos Peninsula, calling forth their new Dreadblade allies. The forces of Khorne, driven by an insatiable lust for bloodshed, did not arrive by these warp gates. Lured regardless, they arrived upon a blood wave, crashing into the frigid northern reaches of Cronus, forcing the Dark Angels into a deadly two-front war. The Warband, calling itself the Skull Creed, declared war upon all who dared to stand before them, their thirst for carnage unquenchable, and their advance towards the Nephilim sector will leave a bloody trail. Following the arrival of the Khornate Warband, a mission of the Sororitas Order of the Ever-Burning Lantern was ripped from their warp course by the virulent blood wave. Cast adrift, Canoness Susanna and her sister Joanna landed in Victory Bay, preparing their consecrated force for the brutal war surrounding them. On the Green Coast, the latent spores of the orc gene have once again found fertile ground. Several war bosses and their brutish followers, emboldened by the promise of endless carnage, gather their forces, scrapping together the heaviest suits of armor and choppiest of claws, all while chanting the timeless rallying cry of a new war. Had to do it.
You had to do it.
The Dark Angels reconnaissance force, known as the Unmerciful, survived a brutal ambush by mutant heretic Astartes, but failed to purge the taint, creeping into the forested lowlands. Meanwhile, the Dreadblade, Heretic, and Damned forces, aligned with the Exiles of Iron, clashed with the Skull Creed along the Pariah coast, a bloody conflict that only worsened as the forces of Khorne pushed forward with savage abandon. Amidst the carnage, the Sisters of Battle, true to their name, were consumed by righteous fury. In the Eris Badlands, they found themselves locked in a deadly street brawl with a massive orc warband. The Sisters, unyielding in their resolve, slaughtered the orcs without mercy, their rage unleashed in every brutal melter blast. And that's where we are.
No, I'm really glad you went through that, because it sounds really cool.
I used to run D&D games.
It shows.
We played a couple matches since, but that was the opening spiel I wanted to give our group, and now I've given to all of you.
How do you feel about how things have gone so far with your Crusade force and the game in general?
I think the game in general reflects still the overall win rate of our various players, both in and out of Crusade. So nothing feels particularly changed in like a strategic sense, at least from my observation. My personal force has been quite anxious for me to run because they're a lot more glass cannony than I'm used to in a force. However, I have won 2 out of 3 games. The ones that I won were against bully boy orcs and an iconoclast fiefdom where half the army was a knight tyrant.
I don't know what you're on about.
And even my third match against the Dark Angels was such an uphill battle, but it was a lot closer than it realistically ought to be. So I'm actually having a decent bit of fun leveling up my girlies, giving them their relics, going through the Trials of the Saint Crusade stuff, and that's been quite fun. I don't have a meta list or anything like that. I don't realistically believe in being the deadliest list, but I do like a bit of synergy, and there definitely seems to be a little bit of synergy. I think my actual battle line units don't do very much, but my characters and my heavy support do almost too much in comparison.
I mean, as long as someone's getting the job done, right?
Yeah. How about your force?
My main force is Chaos Knights. As you said, up to the 1,000-point mark, I was running a Knight Tyrant as the half of my points allocation. Mostly because I think he's super fun and definitely not meta, which is also something that I don't really like to run meta lists necessarily, but it's always fun to throw the biggest possible thing I can on the board and just see. It's been an interesting game where the Knight Tyrant has definitely been worth his weight, in my opinion. I think the model is very slept on and can accomplish a lot of really fun swingy things, especially in the face of some of the stuff that is being thrown on the table. Him backed up by a couple of War Dogs and some Cultists was the majority of my list at 1,000 points, and is very iconoclast in nature. The Cultist mobs have been irreplaceable in terms of having something on the board that can do things around your knights. And it's so good to have access to a detachment that gives me some sort of ally. I have had an absolute blast. I already have 25 point experience on my Knight Tyrant, which shows in his Crusade points. One key thing to think about with big models is the towering keyword does have an effect. Oh, sorry, the Titanic keyword does have an effect on Crusade points. So all of my big knights, when they would normally gain 1 Crusade point, instead gain 2.
Yeah.
So he himself is 6 Crusade points.
That's more than I have.
But it's only because he has 3 upgrades.
You want to hear my reason for having less than 6 Crusade points, Johnny?
Go on.
So for every unit that dies in a Crusade game, you have to roll an out-of-action test on a D6 result of a 1. They have failed that test. They can either give up one of the battle honors they have gained from leveling up, or you can give them a battle scar.
Yep.
And battle scars can range from things such as no charge bonus to no leading units or being attached by a leader to worse leadership tests, just nothing good. And I swear to goodness, I keep failing. So despite all of my upgrades, I think I have maybe 11 or 12 Crusade points, but I have so many fails that I'm like on par with like your Knight Tyrant.
Just cancelling them out.
Which is actually a little strategic in the sense of if the actual battle scars I receive aren't too breaking on my strategy, it works in my favor against people with not many Crusade points, because Crusade wants you to have a little more balance, so you get like Crusade blessings if your opponent is a certain threshold above yours in terms of overall experience to their army.
Yep.
But if you have battle scars, it brings that total back down, reducing that gap between players.
It sure does.
So that's kind of funky. But we have played a couple of matches, only a couple, like 1 or 2. Our Death Guard mate has joined in.
And is already rearing to go.
Yeah, bought some stuff, built some stuff, they're onto it. The Death Guard have risen from the desert where the tower used to be in the Dark Crusade, and they are bordering the World Eaters and the Orcs, so that's fun. The Necron tomb, which is currently non-claimed by anybody, is starting to come to life mysteriously.
I don't like that. That's right on all of my borders.
Right on all of your borders. I have taken an idea from Necromunda, which is the game master has an arbitration force, basically a sort of police, if you will, within the system to bully the top dog, to sort of kick them down a peg. I'm trying to come up with something that allows me to actually use my like 4,000 points of Necrons so that they're not just on my shelf as some sort of arbitration force.
Sounds like a good idea.
Maybe the Crusade force that I was running last year, since they are beefed up.
Oh yeah? That could be a good idea.
Yeah. On top of that, our World Eaters player is chomping at the bit to have a Tyrannid High Fleet come into the system and randomly consume regions on a victory, maybe once every few games, to sort of present this vanguard of the High Fleet. And I think that's a pretty neat idea. We'll try and implement that in an effective way.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's classic Warhammer conflict where everybody's here.
Which, you say classic Warhammer thing, but it doesn't happen very often. It's kind of like these big narrative events where you get this huge collection of factions in one area, which normally have a lot of lore and story behind them. So it's really interesting to see all this lore and story we're building as we play. But I'm also not going to lie, it kind of makes me want to go back and play Dawn of War.
Do it. No one's stopping you.
Exactly, right?
Well, we've just gone up to 1,200 points. So last year when we did our first Crusade, we started with combat patrols, and by that I mean the actual points value that the community tends to assign to that term, which is 500 points.
Mm-hmm.
not the actual combat patrol boxes you buy, because they're a little imbalanced and not always 500. Almost never, actually. Anywho, we then went up incrementally over our 8 or so games from 500 to 1,000. And then we are in this year's season. We are starting with 1,000, incrementally going up every month or so. Roughly 3 to 4 games, because we do have the ability to play weekly or fortnightly at worst. And that's very cool. So we just gone to 1,200. And we got more players, a couple other factions in the waterworks. My whip systems are being activated one by one as people become a bit more confident in managing their army's roster and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What are you hoping to, what direction are you wanting to take your force in, and what are you anticipating with the Crusade?
I want to build up my force, primarily focusing on the larger knights. I currently have 4 built, and I want to use them. Less focus on the war dogs, even though I have a few of those built as well. But I'm really interested to just, throw some stompy robots on the board and watch what happens. At this current points increase, I have added my second large knight, being a knight rampager. And frankly, I kind of want to add another one and just run 2 rampages in the near future. At the moment, I have, in terms of the map, I've spent the last couple of games reinforcing my current location, so I've grabbed a couple of the regions around my starting base without stepping on anyone's toes or pushing too far in any one direction.
But now you're on everyone's toes.
Now I kind of want to push some people and make them uncomfortable.
It's interesting that you say that, because I think people are going to start doing that to you. You and the Dark Angels player have played, maybe not the most. You have played the most, but the two of you are the ones who have had the most victories.
Yeah, we have pushed out the most.
Your presence on the meta map is considerable.
It's nice.
I have taken smaller territories. They're all equally important, but my territories visually are smaller. But there's just the big blob of green for the Dark Angels and purple for you, just smothering this region. But we've got a few threats from all these other players. The Dark Angels player has claimed the spaceport, which allows them to attack any territory, provided that there is an actual border attack. You can't just go straight behind the enemy line. You have to go and attack a border region.
But I don't know if it's necessarily something you want to do.
We'll tweak it, but it allows him to not have to just fight me or the worldies. He can go across to the other side of the board.
Yeah, for sure.
And potentially flank the Orc, the Death Guard, put a bit of pressure on them. There's a zone between the Orcs and you that they could easily pop into.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little Imperium team-up.
I don't like the sound of team-ups.
Well, one of the calculations for matchmaking literally is, the way the math has gone, you need to force an alliance of convenience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I have gone to 1,200 as well. The state of Sisters of Battle is not fantastic. I am playing their Crusade Miracle Dice. Sorry, not the Crusade, the Codex Miracle Dice. I'm not going with this rubbish nerf they've gone with. Sorry, guys.
Well, they have just readjusted it again as well, so...
It's not what it was, but it's better than they had it.
Yes, but it was a top-performing army.
No, it wasn't.
Way back when it was up in the top charts.
The index was.
But then, yes, they definitely got hit harder than they needed to be.
The Codex came out and the internal balance is not superb. You're kind of encouraged to go down the parking lot route, which is a lot of vehicles. Yeah. And that's okay. My 1,200 points is throwing in a Castigator battle tank, and we talked about her once before in an episode, Ephriel Stern, and the only named Harley Quinn miniature.
The racist herself.
She's not racist. She's just doing her best. She literally has an alien for a bestie. How is she racist?
She's racist against chaos.
That seems just like a conflict of ideology.
That feels like targeted hate, which
Could
is
be.
the definition of racist.
Okay. If you say so, social studies major. That's where I'm going. I have gone big and have purchased several units at once, so now I will be able to field a 2k army of sisters with no wiggle room options. I have pretty much just 2,000 points of sisters, and that's cool.
That's neat.
That's neat. You can play 3k games. Not sure what I would do for that, but I'm liking this like 2k force. Let's start there, build it, paint it. I really like penitent engines. They've been my MVPs consistently. They just don't die. Mortifiers, penitent engines, they're good. They're scary. They hit harder than you'd expect. Meanwhile, my actual sisters squad is getting picked up by small arms fire and artillery strikes.
Oof.
My battle sister squads have done sweet FA. They sticky their objectives. Maybe they generate me some more miracle dice, and then they just get blown up. Their melter guns and rifles, even if I substitute a miracle die to guarantee a hit or guarantee a wound, like the person will just save it, or it'll do like 1 damage. You know, it's like, okay. Then I throw Paragon warsuits at anything, and they fall over. Not the warsuits, what they're looking at.
It's quite often the case, right?
Yeah. But I don't have too much time left that I can talk today, my friend. Is there any other things you'd like to talk about?
I will say, I really need to go through some more of what you've written up, personally, and really focus on what I can get out of certain tiles, so I can plan my next attack. I'm really interested in picking up a couple of decent Honor Guard, preferably something that can match the power of our Dark Angels player who just got a very good Honor Guard. But yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with where we're going and where we're at, and I'm excited to see what happens in this next chapter, as the 1,000 point category kind of felt like staging for everyone, and now I think we're going to get into some really sticky fights.
I think so. We're going to now get into some territorial aggression, the tier 2 of my perceived course for this particular campaign. It'll be nice to come back and give the recaps and talk about how it's all going and how the systems whip into place that I've been writing up.
Yeah, for sure.
See if the top dogs get knocked down a peg or two.
Oh, I'm sure it'll happen. It'll be just like our last campaign, where I got a decent win streak at the start and then balanced out to 50% by the end.
At the end of our first season, you came in 3rd place with a 50% win rate over 8 games.
Yep.
I came in at 63% win rate over 8, and our Dark Angels player came in at 67% over 9.
Mm-hmm.
Our other friends below 50%. Currently, in our games, just looking at the 1v1s, because you did do a multiplayer game with our newer players last time.
Yep. Which was actually incredibly enlightening for the other 2 players, I will say. It was very good to be able to sit there and kind of give them a little bit of direction, strategic thinking, be able to like weigh up options, and really help them. So I'm hoping to see some increase in their strategy in the future.
Yeah. Well, I am coming in 2nd place, I suppose, with a 66% win rate over 3 games. And you are tied with our Dark Angels player for 75% win rate over 4.
Correct.
And then our other players below 50%.
Hey, they've had a tough time fighting into me, I'll be honest.
Yes, you need good dice, you need good stat sheets, you need an awareness of your actual army abilities and stratagems, and you also need a little bit of tactical acumen. There's a lot of things to really... There's a lot of plates to spin.
Comparatively, like, I've been playing Chaos Knights longer than any of the other players have played their current armies.
Yep.
So I have a little bit more knowledge on what I need to do with my army, which is helpful. And as we saw last time in the last Crusade we played, like, as people understood what I was doing, what they were doing, my matchups became harder to win as people learnt. But if you just do this, you remove it. Like, Chaos Knights is a very stat-checky army, as everyone will say. Once you have an idea of what they're doing, it's fairly easy to counter them.
Crusade missions are also a little swingy. You'll have things that you're objectively just not going to be good at doing.
Yes. And honestly, Crusade is a really big advantage for Chaos Knights as well, because you don't lean on secondaries as heavily. You have your own personal secondaries that you do, which allows me to really focus on what I'm doing instead of getting thrown for a loop when the game decides I need to do this thing I'm not good at doing.
Hell yeah.
But no, it's been a lot of fun.
I'm going to have to call us there.
Let's do it.
I have enjoyed this as well. A nice little casual, concise chat about Crusade alliteration. I am looking forward to getting my butt kicked soon with Sisters, or just eking out a turn 5 win like I have done several times.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a turn 5 win, alright? I've done it before.
No. Yes, it's been cool. I will be always tinkering away at this, and we'll always be playing on our Sunday sesh.
Although with me going away for 2 weeks soon, I will be getting a couple of buys and letting people catch up a little bit.
That's fine. But yeah, we'll talk about this again in a couple of months' time. Crusade Diaries.
Yeah, cool. Alright.
Paint your models.
And
conquer the galaxy.
We have an Instagram now. Please check it out if you want to.
Oh, yes. I always forget to do these.
If there's anything you do want to see, the few people that are out there listening regularly, please let us know. We're more than happy to take on any feedback we can receive. Anything we can improve on. This is a hobby for us, but is also a very new experience for both of us. So we are looking to make this something we do for the significant future. So please reach out, chat. Eventually we will open up a Patreon and YouTube support eventually, and all of that fun stuff as time goes on. The more that we engage with our community, the more likely this will happen more regularly and that we will give you content you actually want to hear.
Space Marine tier list.
Alright.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for listening. Enjoy your hobbying.
Thanks, Johnny. Have a good day.
You too, eh?